Let's just keep talking for a second to make sure that
the levels all right.
Yeah, the one I did with Dave Rosowski, I realized that after the fact, because it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I only have like 45 minutes, and like he's a
busy
big
man.
deal. Yeah. So it was like recorded the whole thing, and then afterward I realized that my audio was so quiet compared to his, so like had to go.
Well, I know.
Had to go.
You
through,
actually had to go and increase your volume.
Yeah, for like every time, or just like, and half the time I cut it out, or like would just, if I couldn't like make it, if it was like at the beginning of something, you know, like I just had to cut it out, which then made the interview sound even more.
Like Radiolab, like kind of like they cut out all the gaps in between, and
it made it sound even more like him just talking the whole time. Because
that's kind of every interaction that I have had with Dave Rosowski.
Right, like, well, that's what I mean. It was already 85% him just talking, and then by me having to edit it out, it got to the like 95%. So then it just doesn't sound like I'm doing an interview at all. It just sounds like him being like, I'm going to talk about myself for an hour.
I realized that I got like how I behave while I'm watching improv. I realized I picked that up from Dave Rosowski, because he, like, have you've taken a class with him? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, does he still like get on the edge of his seat and like squirm while he's watching scenes, like, and you can see how reactive he is, like when he sees something he likes, and he's like, oh, like, and he's like, he's always on edge, like, and basically standing on the chair.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, as I do improv with like my high school kids, and like, and just generally whenever I'm watching a scene, like that's what I do too. And I realized I picked that up from him. This is because I'm just there, like I'm moving around, like watching it from different angles, and I'm like, like whenever I see something, that's good.
It's good for like the students. It's obviously way better than like when you're doing improv and there's no, there's no reaction.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially if you're doing long form, that helps, because interaction with the audience is more subtle than it is in short form, where you're literally asking for stuff. And like I feel like having that, being able to tell like who's affected by what is good for letting a scene play out.
I'm thinking about that a lot with like doing long form, like in practice, and how different it is when you do it in a practice versus when you do it in front of the audience. You know?
Yeah.
So like often with long form, like the audience will kind of tell you what they like, or like tell you what is funny, because you're not going in with the game of like, oh, this is going to be funny because of this short form premise that we're like setting up.
You don't have this. You don't have the premise of the game to rely on.
Right. Yeah. So like half the time it's like, oh well, the audience liked that, we'll do more of that. But like in practice, it's like.
It depends where like long form depends on so much. Like it depends on what your venue is, where you're performing, what audience you're getting. Because if we did long form for a bit player's audience, there's a good I think some of them would enjoy it, but there's probably a good half of them that would be like, what is this? Like,
right. Yeah, if you just went up and did like TJ and Dave style long form.
Well, TJ and Dave, like you better be as good as TJ and Dave if you're gonna do a TJ and Dave style long form.
TJ and Dave, it's the most I'll just keep recording now actually, because now we started talking about improv, so I can edit it in.
Yeah.
TJ and Dave, I think it's the best thing ever. But for like so many ways of. Like, for an audience who's never seen improv, I went and saw them in New York, and, what's his face from, it's like the guy who's the lead person in Law and Order, like Vincent
D'Onofrio.
He was sitting, like, in front of us
there?
at the TJ, and it was like...
That makes total sense.
So it was just like, no, this isn't an improv thing. This isn't like a scene thing anymore. Like, they're so good that it gets to the point where it like becomes like a red carpet.
Yeah.
Because it's the other thing that I think is so great about them, because like they do long form, but they don't really do long form because there's no edits, or like there's none of the montage that you like normally associate with long form. They just kind of do like a improvised
stream
play,
or whatever.
Like, starting right.
Do they kind of like, if I remember correct, I haven't seen them in a long time, but do they kind of do like, it's almost a slacker format?
A teeny bit, but I wouldn't even put like any form. It's literally just like, they don't get the suggestion, so they just like look at each other, figure out what they're in the middle of just by looking at each other. Like they don't start from the beginning. They're just like, what's going on right now? Yeah. And then start it, and then maybe like one person will It's usually one location. The one I saw was like a barista. And so like at a little point they went out to like, someone went outside and they were like at the bench in front of the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And stuff, but never like a need for a cut to. Like they literally walked through a door and were there. So it was still like single location. And then I love how they, you know, like say it's the two of us and we're like baristas and then the boss comes in and I leave to play the boss and then like that ghost player still stays there and then if that person needs to talk, you come over and you like, so TJ comes over and takes over one of Dave's characters.
Yeah, that's incredible, like to see that, like, and it's so hard to do, like that's why I say you better be as good as TJ and Dave.
And then
who else? Who the other the other duo that I've seen do a similar thing? Have you ever seen Weird Ass?
Stephanie Weir and Bob Dassey.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them, but I know.
I saw them at Del Close one year, and that was pretty incredible. They would do group scenes and just like like they'd have the two central characters, and they'd each like kind of one by one leave to populate the scene in another way. Like it's cool. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, but the thing that I think is so great about TJ and Dave, aside from just like improv as doing improv, I think about improv like for the audience, like how you present improv to different audiences, and so the thing I think is so cool about the TJ and Dave thing is like a lot of the times with improv, it's like a weird thing, not like short form because everyone's seen Whose Line, so like they're pretty used to used to that. But if you're just like, we're gonna do a Herald or we're gonna do whatever, and there's like, you know, people like tagging people out or like we see this on the stage. Wipes, all of those things, which if no matter how much theater you see, you've never seen those improv conventions. So like TJ and Dave don't do any of that. They don't do the stereotypical, all we need to get started from the audience is a word. So you get rid of that. They don't do any edits, any tag outs, any cut tos. The fact that different people play other people, like you instantly just realize, oh, it's two people. Of course I have to do that. If it was two people doing Macbeth, of course other people would play other characters. Right. So it like has that thing of like you being impressed by the fact that it's improv, but it like removes all of the barriers or all of the like confusion that you would get if you had never seen improv and you went and saw an ASCAT or something.
And I think that takes a lot of skill to do, like that to be able to kind of boil it down to the essential like that and still come across and still be able to relate to just a general audience.
Because I guess if you think about all of those things, tag outs, wipes, just edits, suggestions, all of those are tools, right? They're all tools that improvisers use. Yeah, so you are literally giving up all of the tools that have been built into improv to make it feasible. Yeah. Right? And you're like, no, let's get rid of every device that we have created.
Well, it's like
in order to do our art form.
It's the same principle. It's just like taking off the training wheels after, kind of each level you reach. At first you say don't ask questions, then you say okay, like ask questions, but make sure they add something to the scene. Like then say always yes and, but like sometimes saying no is saying yes. Like it's It's
agree with the player, but you don't have to agree with the character.
Yeah, I think that once you've reached the point where like you can do that, do it. Like remove the break the rules.
Hey everybody, as always, it's me, Clayton Mashad, and that was my sound check with Jim Foley. Sorry if you've heard me rant about some of that stuff before, but like I said, it was just supposed to be a sound check, but once we got going, we just couldn't stop. Jim is a veteran member of the Bit Players, Rhode Island's most award-winning comedy troupe. You can check him and them out every Friday and Saturday night at the Firehouse Theater in Newport. It's Whose Line style short form, and it's BYOB, so if you like getting drunk and you like laughing, chances are you'll love it. And they also have a podcast called Bits Per Second, and you should check that out. Our plan was to talk about genre and compare genre work across short form and long form, but as that sound check suggests, we spend a lot of time just geeking out about what we love about improv. Don't worry though, eventually we do get around to talking about both short and long form genre work and doing farce, and after a few afternoon drinks, we even do a ridiculous sci-fi scene for y'all at the end. As always, if you like this podcast, please rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, and like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. It's so funny, because I was going to say, Oh, do you have kids? Or are you just talking about a pet?
No, it's my wife's cat rescue that we took in just for the night. The litter of kittens that were found in a house in Connecticut and had arranged to drop them off at a shelter today. But she just drove to the shelter and there's nobody there.
It's ridiculous.
So yeah,
that's how they get you. They're like, we'll just tell them to go to this closed shelter and then they'll keep the kittens. So I finally normally. So you listen to the ADD Comedy podcast?
No, I have.
No.
I haven't. I did a few times. I haven't listened to it regularly.
It's like one of my favorite ones, but it's. I wouldn't say it's hit or miss or anything. It's just that he doesn't interview exclusively improvisers.
Oh yeah.
So, which is all I care about. I don't care about
Yeah.
I
don't want to hear Dave Rosowski talk about not improv.
Yeah, it still becomes about improv. Almost everyone, even because lots of the people are people like you met through Second City. So even if it's like Tim Meadows or Steve Carell or Stephen Colbert or something like that, they still just end up being name dropping about their Second City days.
Well, yeah, but
that's a good one.
I like Improv Yak. And I like your show. I think I think yours is the best kind of straightforward one that I've heard. That's not that because I like how you grab whoever's in town and
do whoever's around.
And I kind of have you ever listened to TV Guidance Counselor?
No, never heard of it.
With Ken Reed, who's a Boston comedian, where the premise is he will have a guest and they will pick a week from TV Guide, pick a week in TV history, which is basically an issue. Pick an issue of TV Guide, and they will talk about what they would have been watching that week. So whether it's from their childhood or something like that.
That could almost be a cool 2-form.
Yeah,
a 2-person short form where where you just pretend that you get your history. It's can we get an episode? And then you guys just flip through it, spend 3 minutes flipping through it. So you're oh, now I know what time period we are. We're in Friends season 2.
Yes.
Frasier season 4.
Exactly.
And then you just do an entire show based on
That would be a cool thing.
Can you believe what Ross did to Rachel?
Oh my god. That would be that would be pretty cool. I don't know if anybody actually does that. But the reason it reminds me of that is that he will have he'll have big names on his show from TV and he'll have Will We In on or somebody or Adrian Barbeau or somebody who's famous, and then he will have just some local person. So he'll have big name and then Tim Vargulish. I love again he'll have Ahmed Barucha, but from before he got his Comedy Central special.
I can't believe I can't believe how big he is now.
But that's what yours got, because you will have Dave Rosowski and then me.
Well, when I originally started doing it, I wanted to do an actual improv podcast, a Spontaneation or Improv for Humans.
That's what I wanted to do with Bits Per Second originally. Bits Per Second, the Bit Players podcast. That we started just kind of talking about. We will occasionally still talk about improv, but then it's kind of just become, hey, let's talk about.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard to do improv, especially because you need to coordinate. I don't know. So anyway, I was I want to do an Improv for Humans or some variation, and then it was just that would be hard. I know a lot of improvisers. I can just talk to them. And so then originally it was literally just supposed to be the premise was I'm going to talk to Rhode Island improvisers. And then it was just the first, right when I started the podcast was the first OSIF. And so then Kaiser was there and P. Graf were there. And I was well,
you're not gonna just
I'm not going to not...
Get out of here, foreigners.
Yeah, I'm not going to not interview... Yeah. I'm not going to not interview both of them.
Exactly.
So then it was when I even started iTunes, it was I talked to my favorite improvisers from Rhode Island about blah, blah, blah. And then it was the first 2 episodes
are not from Rhode Island. Yeah.
One's not even from America.
Well, yeah.
And then,
so get the hell out. I mean, come on.
And then once I realized, like, oh, well, there's, 2 or 3 festivals. There's like 2 festivals a year. People come and teach workshops. Like, the Dave Rylewski workshop was at Improv Boston. So I just drove, went up there and took the workshop, and then I did the interview with him. So then I was like, well, there's no point, and everyone's so fucking nice.
Yeah.
Dave was just like, yep, sounds great. Joe Bill was like, yep.
That's awesome.
Sounds great. I know.
That's why they're like really generous players.
Right. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Let's do the actual. Let's do some actual podcasting stuff.
Actual PCasting.
Cool. All right. So it starts with your general bio. So like, how did you get into improv? You teach kids now. You're on bit players. So just, and then I'll just interrupt you, ask you a question, etc.
Well, I got into improv in college. I went to PC and was one of the
Providence
College, yes. I was one of the starting members of their improv troupe, Rejects on the Rise, which I think is still there. I'm an old man now, so I've lost touch. But last I checked, 2012-ish, it was still going strong. And that's kind of the first time I did it for real. We did short form. It was kind of, it was fun. That's where I met Melissa Bowler. I've been adjacent to the most successful improvisers in the area. Melissa Bowler, who is now the executive director of Providence Improv Guild, was in our group, and we kind of came up in improv together. She's one of the people I most admire, I should say.
Yeah. Definitely one of the best improvisers in the state.
Yes. And so after college, I joined Unexpected Company, where I met Tim Thibodeau, and Frank Fizarro, who is,
and that's everyone, right? Who's used to, everyone who's been doing improv for. It was one of the major ones. That's Nick Mandello,
Andy Mandello, JJ Lang,
was the coordinator. Something.
Yeah, it was one of the original 3 kind of when Providence Improv Fest started. It was 3 groups. It was Improv Jones, it was Speed of Thought Players, it was Unexpected Company.
Yeah,
and I remember just happening Providence Improv.
There was
Fest,
20 members or something.
Something like that. It was there were 10. That's
not very. Okay, never mind that.
I don't know.
I thought there was some crazy amount.
There were. I remember there being a lot.
And Ahmed was on that and stuff, right?
Ahmed was a little bit later. Yeah, it was actually. It was after Ahmed had been
Ahmed Bruce
established.
Conan O'Brien.
Of Conan O'Brien fame, of Stephen Colbert fame, of Comedy Central Half Hour fame, and of the album Alman Badudi, which is really funny. Ahmed was already a pretty well established stand-up in Boston and in Rhode Island. By the time he joined, he just wanted to do improv. So he and Tim Margulish, who is the other funniest guy from Rhode Island, they joined the group for a while, and I really like performing with him. So yeah, I was with Unexpected Company for 4 years, something like that.
You guys performed in the basement of the Warwick Historical Museum.
It wasn't the basement. It was in the museum proper. It was the it's where BYOI performs now. It's the Warwick Museum of Art. There, does BYOI still perform there?
I don't know.
I thought you were.
They're not on my radar.
Okay.
For better or worse, I don't mean to sound dismissive.
They last I checked, they were the ones occupying it now. So that was where we were. And yeah, that was that's when I kind of took the most workshops and was the most involved in Providence Improv Fest. That was before I had a full-time job, for one thing. And so I went to all these festivals, went to Miami, went to Philadelphia, went to Del Close Marathon a bunch of times, went to Austin, was heavily involved in PIF every single year. When first saw TJ and Dave, first saw Rosowski and Clifford, first saw like Jill Bernard. I don't know if have you met Jill Bernard.
I haven't met her, but both Rosowski and Joe Bill have improv crushes on her, so they talk about her all the time.
Yeah, she's my favorite improv celebrity. Like she's the most approachable and the most fun person. When Frank left Unexpected Company, Frank Fazzaro, who's now artistic director of the Bit Players, and the other guy from Pete and the Other Guy, when he left, he kind of befriended Jack and Donna Madem, who run the Firehouse Theater in Newport. They had established the Bit Players in like 2007 or so. And when a bunch of them broke off and formed Sky Punch, and Frank and I kind of stepped in, and we in the group reformed, and now that's basically what it is today, and that's mostly what I've been doing since. Doing short form with the Bit Players. And
cool. And so then you say you teach kids improv?
Yep.
Is that a thing you do?
Yeah, it is actually.
It's a thing I did not know you did until you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, like I teach English. I teach high school English, so I
Catcher in the Rye.
That's my good old Catcher in the Rye, Mice and Men, all the books by just old dead white guys.
The best advice I ever got from my high school English teacher was when I was a very Holden Caulfield-y teenager, and she went up to me and she's like, every person who pumps gas at a gas station thinks that they're Holden Caulfield. Don't be that person.
Well, yeah, that's what I basically do the same thing.
Yeah, it was like, don't never do anything in your life because you think everything is bullshit. Like, find something you're passionate about and actually do it, rather than hate everything. It was like, oh, you're right. I do hate everything. I'm a shitty person. That is a 17.
It's also it's also like stop looking for a male role model when there is none. Like that's a
whole other issue.
Yeah. And don't learn to grieve properly. Like that's what I take from that one.
That later one is something I've never learned and still haunts me to today. Jim, you've changed me.
Have I done this? Have I
You were my new high school. You were my new high school teacher.
There is that kind of being a teacher. There is that kind of like the feeling like, man, if I were in high school now, I'd be the coolest.
Which is right. You think that
there is that, but it's a phase because now I'm an old man. Like now I'm getting to the phase where I'm like, I don't know what these kids are listening to, or
it's like that mid-20s. You're like, they all have crushes on me.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're 30. You're like, I'd be made fun of even more.
Yeah, it's come back around like that curve. But yeah, like the drama teacher and the teacher who runs the drama club, who's also an English teacher.
Okay, so it's not improv specific.
Oh no, it is. Like it is, but like
cool.
But she had expressed it. Like she said, she was thinking of starting an improv group, and I said I'd like to be heavily involved with that. Like, so we for a year we kind of coached it together, but then I took it over. Last year I took it over completely, and so we just kind of meet every week, and we do shows occasionally. We do shows in the library. Like we tried to do shows in the auditorium, and it's such a high school auditorium where it's like big and wide open, and if there's like if 20 people come to your improv show, that could be a really good show. That could be a really like fun
but not in a giant auditorium.
If it's in a huge auditorium. So we went to the library and kind of like found our nook. And one thing I found, and this is it's really encouraging, is that most of the people who want to join are girls, which I think is awesome, because especially like given at the high levels of improv, how much sexism there is.
Right.
The more girls want to do improv, I think the better.
It's like 80% bearded, testosterone raging men in flannel shirts and Chuck Taylors.
I would hope that it isn't. But yeah, but like all the but there's
I'm over exaggerating.
80%. Yeah, like I don't want it to become that. It's which is why I'm glad that young women want to do it. Want to do improv. And,
I want to talk about
it's an inclusive atmosphere.
I want to talk about that for a second, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wonder if sorry guys, I'm opening a beer.
It's 3 in the afternoon.
You're not. They didn't know that, Jim. They had no idea what time this.
I'm playing honestly.
We could have been 10 p.m. When I recorded with Tim Timono, we recorded from like midnight to like 4 in the morning, and we just drank. We were totally sober for that.
I remember that's another thing where I feel like an old man. I used to be up until that like that era, like that time in the morning, just like.
It probably wasn't really that late, but probably more like 9 to 2 or something.
I remember like going to like Providence Improv Fest and like, okay, the last show's at midnight and then there's the party. And this year, like,
yeah, every time with festivals, total digression. Every time with festivals, like I had that same thing of like you want to do everything, you want to take all the workshops, and you like think you have the energy to do it. Mm-hmm. So then you're gung ho for like the first 2 days, and then you end up having to like miss good stuff that's happening.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
well, I used to, when I was a young man, I used to stay out till like 2 a.m. and then get up for like a 10 a.m. workshop.
That's what I do for the first half of the festival. Yeah. And then the second festival, I just miss everything I'm supposed to do. Alright, we can stop about old man complaining about it.
Remember when I was a young improviser.
So I wonder if the thing, so all about teaching improv. Mm-hmm. And so when I talked to Tim Mahoney with the interview, I feel like I could make people who already want to improvise better improvisers, like give them notes, help them improve. Yeah. But the idea of like, well, I'm not sure how to like convince people who aren't already gung ho, like how to convince them to want to do improv. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting what you're saying of like how it's so often girls or majority girls who sign up for this high school improv team. I really do wonder if that is the kind of, like, male-female maturity thing of, like, in order to be able to do improv, you have to, like, get over so much caring about what other people think about you, or, like, not caring about what other people think about you, but essentially some variation on that, you know, like, you have to know that, like, the only way I have to go up and commit to what I'm doing, otherwise it's not going to be good. So I can't go up, like, sarcastically. Which I feel like is the stereotype of the like high school boy who is like, I can't do anything seriously because if I commit to this, then you can judge me on it. And like the last thing I want,
girls too, like that's not just. I mean, yeah, I get I get why that's a male thing, but it's also like it's.
I guess I can only relate to it as a male thing. I certainly don't want to say that it's a gender based thing. It's just personally,
like in each, I think each in their own way. That
of course,
like. I think they have that like self-protective instinct, and yeah, it does take a bit to coach them out of it. I've got one student who, they all kind of have their defense mechanisms that go on. Like I have one student who will not get off the back wall. Like if we're performing, like he grabs the thing like it and leaves
like he's Louis C.K. and he's like face first.
Like he's exactly but he's at the Niagara Falls and he's afraid to fall off. Like it's that sort of thing, and I have to keep saying that like the wall's not going to help you, man. Like get in the scene.
Yeah, I feel lucky in that way because I was probably like that when I was a teenager in the sense of like ironic detachment in order to not be judged, whatever the stereotype.
I think that to a certain extent
that is the
have to have that to survive.
In high school, yeah. But then I feel like I got lucky because before I started doing improv, I got super into improv before I started doing improv, but not super into like live improv and seeing improv. Mm-hmm. Like basically it was like discovered Paul F. Tompkins. Mm-hmm. And then that was right about the time where he was starting Spontanea Nation. So I got super into that. And then I was like, oh, what else is like this? So like discovered Improv for Humans and discovered all the other improv podcasts. And then from like discovering Improv for Humans, discovered like UCB as a thing.
So you discovered the podcast first. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's right. It's such a like weird like I had seen improv live before, but it wasn't like a oh my god, this is an amazing thing. It was like, oh, this is just one of the things. Sometimes I go see live music, sometimes I go see improv, sometimes blah, blah, blah. And then it wasn't until, like, I think it was basically I was going through a bad breakup and I had nothing to do but I'd just like sit by myself and listen to podcasts or like just walk through the woods ambling by myself depressed and I would just listen to podcasts because I would just be like, I can't be in my own head.
But that's what I did too. Like the last time I went through a breakup was like I was like, I have to go out. I can't be alone with myself.
Yep,
right
exactly.
Now. I need input. I need something to be going through my head.
So I would just go out and I would just listen to improv. And then eventually got to the point of transitioning from like improv to improv to about improv. So like obviously Improv Nerd is probably like the most popular. So like get into that at first. Mm-hmm. And then was like, oh, now there's Improv Yak, and there's ADD Comedy, and there's Miles Ross, like, and all of the different podcasts. Yeah. So then, like, I had probably received 100 to 200 hours of like improv education.
So you downloaded into your head.
Before I took my first improv class. Uh-huh. Which definitely had pros and cons. Because it definitely has lots of cons. Definitely has lots of cons of you coming in and being like, but I heard this, but I think this. Oh, yeah. Which is like the worst thing to go into a class.
Preconception, yeah.
You never want to go into when you're in a class, it should be like, what the teacher's telling you, just buy that for now.
But yeah, like, because if all you listened to was Matt Besser and then you went into a Dave Rosowski class, you would, like...
Right.
You'd be doing all the wrong things for him.
Like, right. Literally. Just because they're different schools. Like, all these rules are shit.
They're different schools. Like the way, because I've taken classes with both and they're very come from different places.
Yes, very different. Exactly. But then, but one of the things that got trained in my mind from listening to, like, so many people's personal experiences, which is why I do the interviews at the beginning, because I do feel like hearing the people's personal experiences is, like, helpful, at least as an early improviser, in the sense of thinking... I don't know. I'll edit that part out.
No, keep this in. This is raw. I like it.
I don't know. There's something about, like, listening to how everyone else has struggled with it, or either how they struggled with it, or, like, what the breakthrough was to them that made them realize it, like, they're realizing, like, oh, as myself, I'm good enough. I don't need to be someone else. The fact that I am a unique individual is what makes me a valuable member of the team.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
I think everybody has has a version of that story.
Right, and so I think that everyone's... Right, and which is why I try to do those intro things. Because everyone's version of that story could be valuable to someone else who has a similar...
Let's see, because my origin story is the opposite of that, because I just started doing it. And I didn't take my first class, I think, or even my first workshop until, like, I don't know, like 4 years after I started. Because I was just in college, and, like, I, like, read some... I took an improvisation class as, as a college course, and I had read, like, a little bit of Keith Johnstone at that point, but mostly I just picked it up on my feet, and it was just kind of, like, picking it up as I went along.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I don't know when the two... Like, I don't know when it converged. I don't know when, like, I started actually... I think it was just when I started long form that, like, and realized that, like, oh, I've only been doing short form, and I know next to nothing about what I'm doing, really. Like, I know next to nothing about why improv works. Like, that I started to pick up on it more conceptually. So, yeah.
I still have no idea how improv works. Despite all my training and the fact that I constantly try to interview people to figure it out.
Well, it means something different to everybody. Like, for me, improv... I couldn't do what I do for a living if I weren't trained in improv, like, to some degree. Like, because that's basically, well, like, my wife will come to me and say, like, how do you teach? Like, you're afraid to call people on the phone. Like, which is true. Just like, how do you get up in front of a classroom every day? Like, you're afraid, you're so shy, you're afraid to talk to people, you're afraid to call people on the phone. Like, how do you get up on stage and do that? And I just say, it's work. Like, it's, like, I, like, get up on stage and kind of learn to just, like, kind of be, act like I'm living. Like,
I 100% agree with you on stage, but you're saying you carry that through to the classroom?
Yes, because teaching is acting.
I can't. That's the thing.
That's really like, I don't know. I think
other people with more outgoing personalities, naturally outgoing personalities, also become teachers, and that just comes more naturally to them. Like I teach with a lot of bro dudes who are just like out there.
I can't carry over anything from improv. Like on stage, I 100% have that thing of like it clicks and you're on stage, and so like all of your social anxieties or like your introversion disappears because you're on stage, and you know that the only way to do what you are attempting to do is to do certain things, like to be a certain way. But I have like the total, which is kind of what you're saying, but you're saying that you still can do it in the classroom. It's like I have a total inability to carry over any of those skills into my real life, including teaching.
But see, I have to, because I am such a socially disabled person. I can't I'm my actual personality is just so awkward to incredible degrees that if I'm not in performance mode, I can't get through the day. I get talking to people, but I have to if I'm up there, it's 7:45 on a weekday, and I'm going to teach. Normal mode, I'm just I'm exhausted. I just don't want to do anything, but I have to just kind of in there. Okay, let's start. That's how I learned to function essentially. If I didn't have that improv thing, I wouldn't be able to. And it's exhausting. I'm when
that must be tough because you are doing an 8-hour improv show every day.
That's basically it. Well, I don't teach for 8 hours straight, thankfully. It's more like 4, with counting my periods off and breaks where I can let them do independent work. Thankfully there's that. But it is acting. So when people say well, you get the summers off, you get you're out at 2:30 in the afternoon. It's kind of well, when you're an actor, you're only performing for 2 hours. The rest of the time is auditioning and rehearsing and practicing. So when you're teaching, you're performing for those 4 to 5 hours every day, and the rest of it is the counterpart.
I'd love to see someone try to use that argument in a union salary debate.
I'm just practicing to make these machines at home, so
yeah. But I'm an actor. You wouldn't say that to Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm at home methoding my teaching.
Thankfully, I'm salaried, so I don't have to argue that I'm working, that I'm on the clock. So it's not
when I come home to my wife at night and make love to her, she says, "Who are you? Did you turn in your assignment, honey?" This is hard.
Sir, this is not appropriate for your review.
Alright, where were we? So you,
We're talking about making love.
I was talking about making love to your wife.
Yes. Spinning off from that.
So teaching, okay. Teach improv, do bit players. Is there anything left of that bio?
There's, I have done work with the CTC. I'm not so closely involved anymore, but I was in Wilbur Neilbur with Neil Leahy.
Hey, what's the deal with
Ryan
them?
Hardigan. The deal is I stopped having time for it, and I think they're still together. They're still an entity. It's Neil and Christine and Tyler Brown and
Kate
Sales and Steph Kelly.
Stephanie Kelly, Ian on the music sometimes.
Yeah. And it was originally just a trio. It was me, Neil, and Ryan Hardigan. Ryan, who is the most esteemed, probably the most esteemed improviser I've ever worked closely with. He's 20-year veteran. Is from New Zealand. He's a theater professor now in Seattle.
So
somebody has talked about Chris.
We
about him in this podcast.
Yeah, I just interviewed Chris last. We talked about.
And he's taught me a lot about improv, and I've learned a lot performing with him. And we just, but basically, whenever we communicate, it's about the stupidest thing. It's about those beans or something like that. You'll see, like on Facebook, we just like kind of troll each other over stupid shit. But that started as kind of a short, like a short form show, but morphed into a genre play, like a genre play show where we did our show was Love Possibly for a while, in which we did an improvised romantic comedy, which was a lot of fun, and like I think my first time doing long form genre stuff, which I like. If I had to do one type of improv forever, it'd probably be that, like
long form genre.
Yeah, just because like it was fun, like goofing around with the tropes and like all the characters and learning all the stuff. And you know, because you did the murder mystery. It's
who done it, and then even Bravo, which is the musical.
Mm-hmm.
Still cool to think about it as a
and I did Slamming Doors, the improvised farce, the first year around. That was incredibly fun. I wish I could have done it the second year. I want to do it again. That was because it was a genre that I wasn't especially familiar with to begin.
Right, yeah. It's
Did you do the second season? Or?
Slamming Doors, no. Just who done it in Bravo?
Yeah, I saw that. That was a lot of fun too. But that was like just doing a genre, because when you have a genre, you basically have preset audience expectations, and like getting to play with those is like kind of is really a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and like they have like you have your set characters, you have you have how the plot basically goes, you have like the themes that keep coming up, and that's I like being able to toy around with like what is implied by genres and what is like and what we can change, like what we can play completely to and what we can like go completely against.
Yeah. So I want to talk about genres.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's kind of like the two. There's like short form genre work, right? Which might be like the story die, or what do you guys call it?
Story die was what I know it by.
Yeah. Versus, like then there's obviously a full, a long form, full length improvised farce or full length improvised murder mystery or something.
And the difference is kind of like what the basic difference is between short form and long form.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
Short form, it's that like you have 5 lines to get to this. Like
right.
Whereas long form, it's like, hey, get to know these characters, take your time, like live in their shoes for a little bit, and that's it.
Okay, thanks. And the podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay, good.
Well, you've cleared it up.
Sick of that shit. Like
cleared it up, Jim. You're right. It's just the same between. All right, cool. Let's talk. Let's focus on short form first, just because that will be the jumping off point.
Yeah.
So, what type of do you guys do? Like, is it pejorative to say it's pretty who's lining? Or is that?
I definitely don't think it's pejorative. I don't like when people use that. Like, because for a while, like, kind of, I walked around in those circles of long form, and I think there are a lot of people who get the wrong message from long form, like, or who take the wrong thing from it and kind of say like, oh, that's just short form, that's just jokey, that's just like, that's easy, anybody can do that. And they're the same kind of people who tend to take pride in as little audience interaction as possible. I think those are people who look at what Dave Rosowski teaches and kind of take it the wrong way. Because I heard Rosowski on your show saying like, you don't need to get a suggestion from the audience. They're there for an improv show. They know what they know it's improv. Like they know what they know like. They know you don't have to prove to them that it's made up on the spot.
Right.
It just is. Like you're not doing the show for any other reason.
Right, yeah. The point of the suggestion, right. If you're getting it for inspiration, that's one thing. But if you don't need inspiration, you don't need to prove to them that you're like...
But I think like there's some validity to saying like we want to share this with the audience. We want or we want to put a little more in the audience's hands than others might. Like I think like as long as short form is shared with the audience, as long as you're not just like I don't know what I would say I would say as long as it's kind of the short form should be, I think, just long form with structure and with like more constant checking in. Like I think that's kind of what it is. But I think a lot of people, a lot of the long form cultists read that as like more gagging, more joking, more like and more leaning on the audience as a crutch.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that last thing of them leaning on the audience more for the crutch. Uh-huh. I think that gagging and joking is true, but I don't think that is bad in the sense of like the whole. Of course, you're doing long form. If you're doing it from a Chicago as opposed to a Johnsonian tradition, then you're doing it to be funny. Yeah. Like, you're doing it to make comedy. Yeah. Yes, if you're doing Johnsonian improv, you're doing it to be more of a storyteller or something.
Yeah, but like no, I mean, at the end, but I mean, like, what's funny is what's honest, I think, and like what people like people laugh at tends to be what's kind of
in a longer form sense. Yeah. But like the reason that they say don't be funny and don't make jokes and everything in a Chicago long form, like a UCB or an IO. Yeah. Thing is because it's going to undermine something that happens later.
Well, yeah, that's what I define gagging as. Like, is like just going for this quick gag, but undercutting what happens later. Yeah, like kind of cutting off something better that might happen.
So of course, if you're doing an improvised play, so say we're doing genre, say we're doing a farce, whatever, and we're doing, you and I have to go out and do a 90-minute farce, then like you saying some stupid line about me that makes no sense but is hilarious just to get a gag 5 minutes in, it's like, oh well, now like how are we gonna fucking reconcile this ridiculous thing?
Unless that's a trope of the genre.
Unless it's a trope of the genre.
If you're doing a farce, like if I just come up with some
maybe a farce was not
some really awful double entendre, that fits right in.
A farce might have not been the best
example. We did that a lot.
A farce might not have been the best example of saying something farcical, being detrimental.
Oh yeah.
But whereas in short form, like you're never recalling the scenes typically, so like the rule of not making jokes or not saying absurd things, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but like comes from the fact that you're gonna have to do second beats and third beats of those things. So you don't, in short form, you don't have that requirement, so you don't have to have that rule. Yeah. So it's not exactly like that rule is in place for a reason, so breaking that rule is not like breaking the art. It's just like we don't have a reason to follow this stupid rule that you've made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that. So like but I mean you can still a gag can still kind of undercut what's good about the what's really funny about the scene, and it can be really self-serving. But yeah, like I think what's the one thing that's harder about short form than long form is you kind of what you just said, like you're kind of required to do that in a shorter scene. You have to get to what's funny,
right? Exactly.
Within maybe 5 or 6 lines, and that's kind of that. And you also like while like I said, long form, you might be able to like live in the characters a little bit. Your first line of a short form scene has to be, who are we? Where are we? Like, what's the point? Like, why are we doing this? Like, which is kind of which is what's tougher. I think so. Like when people dismiss short form, I mean, I love Whose Line. Like that's the thing. I love Whose Line. It's like it's improv strictly as it works on TV.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Which is tough to make play, unless you do it the way they do it. But it's,
I gotta pee.
Keep talking. All right, but it's tougher to do it that way sometimes. Like I think we're in long form, you have a lot of breathing room, and even when you do in genre long form, like it's you get to relax a little bit and figure things out. Whereas like if short form, if I don't figure this out in 3 lines, the audience is going to lose interest. And I kind of like playing with that intensity a little bit, which is why one of the reasons why I keep going back to short form, and like I'll never stop doing it. I like that on the spot. Like let's do this right here and right now.
This pee break is brought to you by 21st Amendment Brewery. particularly the Hell or High Watermelon wheat beer brewed with watermelon. For those who don't actually like the taste of beer but love the taste of fruit, this is the one for you. 21st Amendment Brewery. It's a seasonal release, so it's a pretty ideal summer beer. There's a picture of the Statue of Liberty on here, so this is appropriate. It's appropriate to the current times. I'm
just gonna put that as the as like the cold open. It's just gonna be like we are sponsored by Alright Watermelon, and then it'd be like it's gonna be you. Thanks to our new advertisers, 21st Amendment.
Get some money from them first. See if you can do it. Like float that to them. Like see if they'll actually after the fact.
Well, I think I need like a fake commercial to start it off. Like here's how your ads would sound. Clearly, this is how good they are.
Yeah, exactly. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Anyway.
Exactly.
That doesn't extend.
I say ask for a paycheck after the fact.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't ask for a Ask for a paycheck after.
Yeah. Don't demand payment before you do the thing. Yeah.
Demand paycheck
just do the work and then ask for it.
That they haven't asked you to do. Or do you want to jump right into genre?
All right. I can jump right into genre. All
right. Let's start. Yeah. Let's start with the short form genre stuff. So. So what are some of your favorite short form genre games?
I like Remake.
What's Remake?
That's where you do a full scene and you remake it twice, like each in a different genre.
Yeah.
Because I like that because it gives I like because the other genre, the other switching genre game is genre roller coaster, which is in the middle of a scene. You have to switch genres, which is fun too, but a lot harder to do because it's you have to kind of switch gears in the middle of a scene, and that can involve if I don't know, that can be sacrificing the scene in the name of doing a genre trope. But I like kind of reforming scenes in different genres.
Do you think Remake? Do you think it works? So there's kind of two ways you could view it as either like a kind of a training exercise, or as a sense of you've done a scene, you have a scene, and now you're going to do it as a genre, so it makes you think about the pieces of the genre and how things translate from a regular reality to an alternate reality, in the sense of whether it's sci-fi or Wild West or something. Do you think that the thing is that's funny about it is the comparison between this is how it was normally and now we're doing the genre, versus if you just went into if you did that first scene just as the genre.
See, I don't think it would be as funny. I think you kind of have to do it the control group first. I think it's kind of cool to see
the control makes the treatment funnier.
Because I think it's fun to just do a normal scene, a normal arc, and then to just add those tropes in, because I think the audience can kind of recognize how that affects what happened in the scene, and how how it's shaped to it. I think I do. I don't think it would work, because if you got a genre first, I think you would just do let's say your genre is Western. I think if your first scene was Western, that would just be a Western scene.
Yeah.
And I think unless you did the Dave Rosowski thing of okay, we'll take it somewhere else. Reinterpret it. Yeah. But I think if you're going to do that, you might as well just do it open scene. Because I think it's much more rewarding to see just a regular scene played through these different lenses, rather than to see a scene that's already through a certain lens and then translated to another one. Because I feel it's really hard to, I don't know if I've ever done it before, it's really hard to stack a genre on top of another one.
Yeah, the only obvious one that comes to mind is sci-fi western.
Space western.
Star
Wars is a space western.
Or Fight or Flight.
But I would say that kind of both of those kind of are more westerns than they are sci-fi.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of.
That's the easy obvious one. But other than that.
But yeah, even those still lean more to one than the other. It's tough to view one
it's Western plot and trope, but with sci-fi vocabulary.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other good short form genre games that you feel are successful?
I like Remote Control. That's where that's the kind of story game. It's kind of a story styles type game, but like where the conductor keeps
four
switching.
players in a line on the front of the stage.
Yeah, and the conductor switches back and forth, but like all the like you essentially get 4 channels for the
So
TV.
it's like Stephen King, Jane Austen.
Well, that's story styles, but like it's kind of they're similar. So like story styles is you get styles like. Well, with story styles, you get you can get the style of an author, you can get the style of a movie, you can get the style of a I don't know, like a TV show or a TV channel or anything like that, and you have and the conductor moves back and forth, and they have to tell the same story.
Oh, and you're telling a continuous. So
Remote Control, it's 4 channels. All 4 channels are on the same subject, but they're all separate. Okay,
so you don't have to pick up. You don't have to pick up where the last line was.
No, you just pick. But like you might pick up. You might pick up like on your channel, but later on, and then it's kind of like it's also playing with time a little bit, and like kind of in the same way you might do like in a Herald where you come back to the same beat and it's much later. Like
so you have a time dash built in.
Yeah. So like one channel is like, oh, this is what's your subject? Your subject is I don't know, chickens. And it's like Fox News, and it's like, oh, the chickens are coming into our country and they're laying their eggs over the border. And like,
exactly. Like, that's exactly what I would have thought it would be.
Yeah, and then it's like the other channel.
Then it's Rachel Maddow, and she's like, they put these chickens in cages. They're locking them away. I had a chicken as a pet. It was a good pet.
It's a good Rachel Maddow impression.
I don't even know.
Rachel Maddow, welcome to the
The thing is, I've never even watched her.
But looking at her, that's how you think she talks.
Apparently.
Like, what other people have you only seen and not heard that you can assume that, like...
Lots of people.
It's like...
Facebook these days, you see so many videos, but you don't hear the audio.
You see the subtitles, so it's like, yeah. It's like, hey,
I know what Rachel Maddow but not very well.
But yeah, no, that's to say, I didn't know I would, like, I just happened upon chickens. I didn't know that would be so appropriate to what the...
Very topical. It's a good metaphor.
Yeah, but like, but switch over to like, ESPN, it'd be like, the chicken run is coming to the, like, I don't know. Like it's just like whatever the channel happens to be and how shape it, how that channel.
We got the new chicken pitcher down here at Florida.
We're wonderful improvisers. Like,
this is horrible.
Right now, this is terrible.
We are drinking at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got okay, so you're saying story. What are the names of these things?
Like story styles, where
story styles is continuous, and I point to another person. They finish. They literally have to use the last word that the other person was saying and continue that sentence. In theory,
depending on like usually if it's genre based, usually we will just let the person finish their sentence and have the next person pick up. Like it's not a torture game.
Yeah, like, but in theory, it's a continuation.
There's the story guy, which is not genre based, where like we will go like pointing to like whoever's being pointed to has.
Once upon a time, there was a frog, and he
went to the store and bought a
condom.
This is awesome. This is great. We are 2 people who have been in the audience of every improv show that I've ever been in. This is our show.
That's good.
Condom.
We'll edit this.
Proctologist.
And he bought a proctologist. Alright.
Hooker.
Versus the other one that you were saying, which is like, the time dash. What was the name of that one?
Remote Control.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's all like TV channel. Like if you were switching back and forth between channels, and like while you're on the other channel, this channel is still going on theoretically. So by the time you come back to it, like time has passed, and like that's or a different show has started maybe.
Any others? Any other?
Others like well, we do director, which can be like it's basically like remake, but in a different format. Like we're rehearsing a play, and the director is gonna like give us directions on how we can modify it. And so that can be like we'll do a scene, the director will come in, it's not working for me. Like, try it again as more sci-fi this time, more sci-fi. And, like, and that opens it up to, like, more individualized, like, ways to change it. It's like, you need to be more sad. Like, you go to one person, you need to be more, you need to be more sad, you need to be more angry, and you need to be more happy. Like, so you can play it, like, as a, like, you can play it with emotion as well as genre. Or... That's cool. It's kind of got that meta aspect. Yeah. Or he'll just come in, like, the director will come in and say, like, I need a little bit more Nicolas Cage from you. Like, or like, I need you to emulate Dwayne The Rock Johnson more. Like, so that's another thing. It's pretty similar to Remake, but with different ingredients. Like, yeah, I like that one. I feel like that could even kind of work because it's so meta. Mm-hmm. Almost starts transitioning into long form because you could do that as a group game in a Herald, or you could almost like the idea that, like, because you're not it's just a person being like, oh, we're doing this, I'm a director and we're doing a scene that is a filming of something. Yeah. So, like, I need you to do more of this. Mm-hmm. Well, so before we get into that, how do you like, do you personally prepare, I don't know exactly where this question, but, like, do you think of genre as something that, like, you know a lot about that genre, and there are specific genres that you naturally know a lot about, like... Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, well, versus, like, studying to learn a genre, for instance. Like, do you ever find yourself being like, oh, I guess I should watch Gone with the Wind because in case you want to do like in case I want to do a pro slavery scene. In case I want to be a racist. Yeah, in case I want to be wistful for the times where slavery was. Or yes, you know what I mean. Epic. Well, that's epic. That is what that genre is. Like or romance.
You need to edit that fact.
It's your podcast, so you decide. Yes. Well, like, it's kind of. I mean, there are genres that I know very well. Like I could do a scene like I could do a horror scene easily. Yeah. Like, but when we did Slamming Doors, like, it was. We were very, very... Right, so Slamming Doors is it's a French farce? French or English. French. Yeah, because it's not even a genre. Well, yeah, they're they're essentially two genres. And then the audience... Although English was heavily borrowed from the French, and I've read a lot of, like, early English farces, and they're so you did study it? Yes, yeah. And they're so, like... So this is my grad student mind coming in, because basically... Perfect, I love it. Basically, when... At the end of the Dark Ages, when the Restoration happened, drama in England had been banned for a long time. So when people started writing plays again, they were terrible, and they were basically all the ideas were borrowed from the French, and the French had kind of done this farce thing, had done this, like, comedy of manners thing for a while beforehand, and the English kind of took it and did their version of it, kind of, which is weird. It's weird in an English sort of way. I don't know what to put it. So right, when the English farce took off, like, it was very French inspired. So they're not that different. Yeah, but like when we did Slamming Doors, like we were very closely coached by Chris Simpson and by Dane. Dane. I love Dane. And they were kind of our co-directors, and we, like, at the beginning we had to, I think he said pick a farce to bring in, like, and discuss, like, read and discuss, and he also said read A Flea in Her Ear. Yeah. Which is Fado, which is, like, the kind of quintessential farce, which the CTC had done the year before. And yeah, and so we spent the first few rehearsals just kind of discussing what the common threads are, what are the tropes, what characters tend to show up, like, what is it usually about, what are the themes, what is usually the drive of the plot. It's usually, in a farce, it's usually some sort of like avoiding embarrassment in some way. Like I can't let my wife find out this, or I can't let the people find this out, or like I'm a woman of high status, and if people find out this, I'm going to be ruined. Like it's all about preventing embarrassment in that way. So like they all kind of like a lot of like pieces of a certain genre have the same thing that drives the story. So
right, of course.
So it's picking up on that, and they have the same kind of stock characters, like the buffoonish husband, or like the sexy maid, or the like the I don't know, the promiscuous sister, or like, or whoever happens to come up, and we would like and kind of in our in our sort of like discussions backstage at intermission, or we would like write stuff down on the walls and say like who's gonna be what character, and like what role is this person gonna play, and like we'd play that out on stage.
So you guys did Slamming Doors. That was the first one, and then we did Whodunit, which was like the second one. So I wonder if like when you guys did, that makes no sense to the audience. The first improvised long form play at the Contemporary Theatre Company, and then Whodunit was the second improvised long form play at the Contemporary Theatre Company. So did you guys do that as like a circle thing? Like you would go around and like, you know, you might be like the buffoonish husband, and then the next person.
We didn't do that. You're saying, did we set our characters like explicitly at the beginning of?
No, I don't even. No, sorry, I don't even mean at the within a show. I mean like when you're training for the. Because when we did a lot of the training for Whodunit, we would do like genre circles.
Yes, we did do that.
Okay,
yeah, we did a lot where we would all kind of go around and say like either say like character tropes or character names. We would do character names, because one of the things we discovered early on that was that every character became Pierre or Henry, which was if we didn't keep really close track on who was named what in
you would have like three Pierres.
There would be 3 Pierres, 3 Henrys. So we did work even something as simple as names. Like we'd go around and say like. Yes, I'm Pierre, I'm Henri, I'm Cosette, I'm Colette,
Yeah, well, I guess when you're working with non-English names, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that becomes a much bigger thing, where you just rely on the most stereotypical.
Yeah, but we did it with English too. Like, what's a Charles? Like, what would the characters in an English play be named? Charles, Victoria, Frederick. Like, what like.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we did Whodunit, we ended up settling on like the specific characters.
Mm-hmm.
Each actor had their specific character name.
Yeah, you already knew you were going to be Kermit Claiborne in each way, right?
Senator Kermit Claiborne. Which is,
I think that works for murder mystery.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that plays on, because anytime you go see, like, dinner theater or something like that, it's always the same, like,
I like the idea of see, that's good because it's a justification.
Yeah.
It's like a justification of like, no, it's super meta. We're so meta. We're playing on the trope of dinner theater.
Well, no, that's like, don't sell yourself short in that, because I think that's actually that actually does work.
Short, guys.
Yes. Because if you look at like the Mousetrap, or if you look at the Mousetrap or any other, like they all are kind of those characters. So like, why wouldn't you set them at the beginning? And like, you look at a board game of Clue, it's always the same characters everyone. Like, it's the same.
It's brilliant.
It's the same collection.
What a brilliant justification for improv.
So like, but I didn't think of it as a justification. I thought of it as like, maybe that's what you were thinking to begin with. But okay,
no, I like the fact that you're one step ahead of us.
Right. But yeah, we did a lot of just that raw stuff, like, and going around the circle and saying, well, what are some place names? What are some like, what could the name of the mansion be? What are the towns that this could be in? What are the cities, like, even if they're made up, like, it could be like Nice or Champagne or like, I don't know, what would a made up one be? Le fleur de la mer. Like,
right. Le fleur de blanc.
Things that sound like things is a big, like, but if it sounds like the French mansion, then it is. Like,
yeah, big thing, obviously, in genre.
And yeah, like when we would do the circles and like have the we would have like character names and like and also they're like titled as well. Like, you know, I'm the husband. I'm the, you know, I'm the rich rich politician. I'm the rich politician's wife, or I'm the butler. Like, I'm the butler who's always getting it on with the maid. Like, and figuring out who fit those roles like most closely was one of the most fun things about doing that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, how different actors can kind of play. Because you played the same characters every
exactly.
night. But like different, like we had even, you know, playing around with gender too, because we had we all kind of had to stay. We all kind of had to stick to our gender, except for with Tarantino and Ashley McEnroe. They could switch back and forth, and like it was like we had one of my favorite ones that I could. Kind of the only one that I remember really vividly is the one where Whit played Queen Victoria.
Whit was a very pretty woman. I'll have to give him that.
Oh yeah, and it was it was. And I was a duke, and Val, his mom, was a woman who kept posing as Queen Victoria. Yeah.
The actress is his mom.
Well, yes, yeah, the actor's mom. She played a woman who was posing as Queen Victoria in order to sleep with this French French count who was coming to visit the palace. Like, it was a really fun show to do, and really.
I don't remember if I saw that one.
And it was fun. Like, it was fun because what separates it from a lot of other long form and definitely from short form is that you get to play around with plot a lot, and that's part of that's part of it too. Because most long form shows and all short form, you don't want to mess around with plot. Like, it's just kind of like. Get to the point, get to what's funny about this scene, or like if it's a long form scene, like we want to get to the relationship, or like what is the tension between these two, like what is the what's the heart of this, like why are we watching this moment? Whereas like if you're doing like a full length, an improvised full length, like you get to kind of, that's one extra trope that you get to play with.
Let's talk about that. Let's go on to that idea of. By the classical definitions of improv, you have your short form and your long form, and like, let's stereotype this the most possible. Short form, whose line is it anyway? Long form, Harold, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that those are the two. But then like, but then you have these things like full length improvised plays, or even TJ and Dave, which go on and do a 90-minute, no edits. No improv conventions, no suggestion from the audience.
Yeah.
They just go up and they just do a 90-minute improvised. It's a one act. It's one act because there's no intermission, but it's still not like, you know, between 75 and 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, think it's interesting because when, say you bought a book that was like improvising long form improv, it would be about montage, it would be about Harold, it would be about long forms, it would include edits, it would include openings, and all of those things that are very different from a one act play, right? Which is what we've been talking about in terms of either slamming doors or whodunit or any of these other things. And so like I always like think about that as like, I don't know, like a struggle of the vocabulary. That's not the right word. Like, it's weird how they'll like refer to things. So like I feel like from the UCB perspective, there's long form, and long form has to be a Harold. And so if you went up and did a full improvised play, like in their opinion, that isn't long form because you're not doing wipes, you're not doing tag outs, you're not doing all these things.
Not by that definition, yeah.
Right. Like they've created this definition. They've created the definition of long form, which means a 45-minute structure based on tagouts and wipes. But then someone goes out and does a 90-minute structure without long forms and wipes, and yet that doesn't fall into the definition
and I think the
of what
I don't know.
Chicago. It's not even UCB. It's like, because of course TJ and Dave are the exception, but like what you would think of as Chicago improv, long form.
But like, and UCB's thesis is kind of like it's kind of like what I just said. Like you're doing a long form scene, you know. Find the funny, like find the reason that we're doing this scene. Like first of all, get to what's special about like witnessing this moment, essentially. Whereas a full length like that is more about. I don't know. I don't know. It depends. I guess it depends what kind of full length. Because like a full length like Slamming Doors is about emulating a kind of a type of story that's that's commonly told and doing it from beginning to end.
Let's still get to the point in the sense of like the point is that we're teasing and poking at a genre.
Yeah, and like even that, I think the long form rules kind of still apply because each scene has its purpose. Each scene has its if you're doing like there's a structure to whatever genre you're doing. Like in a farce, like the first scene is like, hey, who are these people? Like who are these people? Where are we? Like what are their separate I wants and how are they going to collide? Like
yeah, I guess what I was just thinking is interesting is how like the word long form has been so adopted. Or adopted isn't the right word. What's the word?
It's just...
What's that word for when people steal other people's culture?
Co-opted?
No, but what's the other one? Appropriated.
Appropriated. Yeah.
It's been so appropriated for montage.
Yeah.
Like, how can you act as if
something...
something...
short form has been appropriated for, like, Who's Line type stuff. Which
right.
is what, but short form also applies to like Keith Johnstone style. Like it may not be like it doesn't have to be short form. It doesn't have to be like quick and gamey and jokey. It can just be like Maestro, like structured and with frequent communication with with the audience.
But I don't know that those are as different. Like, I totally understand.
Oh, yeah. Long form is by definition more open, I think. Like,
yeah. I totally know what you mean, that, like, Whose Line is, like, our whole point is to be funny. Well,
Whose Line is, like, TV. Like, let's make this for TV. Because watching short, like, if you watched a bit player show on TV, like...
Well, because Whose Line is anyway, they record 2 hours and they edit it to 40 minutes.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like, let's give you the 1/3,
Yeah, that's why...
The top... out of 3 funniest things.
Yeah, and watching improv on TV is still just like so it's so different because like I think one of the big things about doing it live is that about watching it live is that you're sharing this experience like once and this is that and that's it. And I think that's why I think that's why you go to improv. Like on TV, it has to be a certain kind of improv to come through. Like, and I think Whose Line, it works that way.
Yeah,
but there's so much more that you can do with it that it's not like that to which is much more enjoyable, like shared in this moment. Because I think back to like some great short form sets that I've seen, and like if I were to watch them, it wouldn't be the same. Like, wouldn't be the same. If I were to watch them like with a screen separating me, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also another thing that I like to think about a lot of the time, especially where it seems like, I don't want to totally go off on this tangent, but like, it seems like sometimes podcasts are able to, it's like a question that I constantly have of like, how are podcasts in this intermediary of like watching an ass cat on YouTube is never very funny, mm-hmm. right? Like it is. Of course, it's funny, but it is nothing. It's nothing like if you were there,
yeah,
right? But yet, like Improv for Humans is maybe like kind of halfway blend,
I think podcasts actually like are more amenable to that.
Yeah,
that's
like I agree, but then my question is like, why is that the case?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's because like something like spontaneation. I think oddly, like I don't know if a short form podcast would work. I think long form does.
Yeah.
So it's like because I think if you look something like spontaneation, it's pretty clear that they are doing that on the spot, and it is very spontaneous, like and that the music is improvised along with it, and that they have like the thing with the buttons that like does the wipes for them, and they're doing like, and you can tell from the way they perform it that it's unedited and it's like done on the spot, and I think that does a lot. Like you can I think it's somehow more intimate.
Which is interesting because they do narrative. They don't do montage. They don't do like the Chicago definition of long form.
Yeah.
Which is then there's almost
I think it kind of works better than like I've only listened to Improv for Humans a few times and I didn't like. I didn't like it that much. Like,
which is then like I don't know. Then it's interesting in the sense of like you wouldn't think I don't know like. Is it the case that long-form narrative is more media, quote-unquote media?
Translatable?
Like translatable? I don't know. Again, so like, going back to what we were saying way, way earlier, before even the beginning of this conversation of like, the idea of like, how you portray improv to the audience. If it's a listening audience instead of a present audience, is I don't know. So then the other thing, like I was saying, of how I got into improv through through podcasting and all that stuff, it's also so different because none of the podcasts depend on object work, environment work, any of those things, which was like another. Just kind of another thing I like struggle with.
That's another thing that like is really fun to do, like like which I haven't done in a while. Like the bits haven't done in a while. Like we would occasionally do radio play, which is just turn the lights out and just do an audio scene.
Oh yeah,
which is fun. Which is fun, and like I've actually saw a group in Philadelphia. I forgot the name, but they turned the lights out and just did a radio show. Just did audio scenes. Like they didn't do it wasn't in the genre of like a radio play. It was just like they would do.
Oh, that's interesting that they didn't do the genre.
Yeah, no, they just did audio scenes. It was just like a regular set, but only sound. And I think that would be really fun to do.
Yeah, because I've seen a few recently. They did one recently at Pig that was like, but they purposely did. So like the form the bat is a herald, but it's in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just a herald that you can't see anything. So then, kind of borders on Improv for Humans almost. Even though Improv for Humans is doing an Armando ASCAP, but yeah, it's I don't know. I almost wonder sometimes if I would be better at that. If I'd be better if I like didn't have to worry about any of the physical environment.
I think it would be. I think it's possible. I think it would be tough to like. I think it would be tough to shake that. Like it'd be tough to like divorce yourself of that of having
to do object work.
Yeah, of having the visual.
See, because I started with podcasts, I have the exact opposite.
Yeah, maybe you might like that might give you like the kind of Daredevil-esque.
I learned all of my improv literally through like.
through voice, through sound.
Through Paula Tompkins.
So that might give you like that might give you the advantage.
Never.
I understand. The way I talk is a little fragmented. Like.
I meant because of all the peeing breaks.
No, that too. Like, is this the most peeing that's ever been done on this podcast?
Well, I think 3 pee breaks is probably the best. But we did like I've just been drinking a lot. Let's do a genre scene.
Okay. Let's do it.
What's a genre? Sci-fi! Oh! Thank you, audience. Sci-fi.
So we're just going to do a scene? Like one scene? Alright.
Sure, why not? General Warren, that radius blasters are in place.
Good. Keep them in place for now. Not ready to attack.
Are you sure they're pointing their ion cannons right at our bow?
It's really tough to make a call. I've lived my whole life under this Cold War we've got going on. I just don't want to be the one that goes down in history as making the first move.
Well, if the uploads attack us before we're able to find a proper defense, I'm afraid we may be the last human civilization to survive.
You know, I voted for it. I voted for...
I know you voted for it, and I know I voted against it, and you're my commanding officer, and I know this isn't the time to bring up the fact that I think you made a huge...
I'm well aware that I made them... I'm well aware...
My child died! You said he would be protected from the infection. You said... You said Fort Bragg would be safe.
We tried to upload his personality. It didn't take.
He had too much personality. We
weren't ready for someone as charismatic as he was.
My son was so charismatic. He was going to be the next
Stephen
Colbert, and you knew it. You were jealous.
Corporal, you were the one who signed him up for those groundlings classes. It's your fault.
I knew it. I said, UCB, no. I said, I don't know. I said, second city, no. I said, groundlings. He is a character. Character.
Corporal, I'm sorry. I want to take some moment. I apologize. I voted for the bill that made the uploads sentient. I voted for the bill that gave them independence and gave them individuality.
Why would you give them sentience? Oh, thanks.
Well, we're paying for it now.
We are paying for it now. The rail cannons. Do you see the rail cannons that are pointed at her fort? Well, how are we...
I'm well aware of that, Corporal. I'm well aware.
General, how... When we first met back at that...
at the academy, I know.
At the academy, I can't... you said...
I was just a lieutenant colonel then.
You were just a lieutenant colonel. I was an ensign. And you said, you'll never be anything more than an ensign. And here we are. And... just... do you really think that this is... do you think we're going to survive?
I think that we're going to survive.
You
and I.
When you say so you mean you and I, but you don't mean everyone else. You don't mean the United States.
The United States is long gone, Corporal.
Oh, yes. You said that they would be safe.
I'm just a military man. I'm not paid to think. I'm just paid to do what the commanding officer tells me. And after we elected that chimp...
here he comes. Over.
I voted for that bill too. And I voted for him.
My primate. What news have we of the infection? So Fort Bragg is safe. There's no, only the Marines survived.
How are you understanding all of this?
I have a very Star Warsian Han Solo to Chewbacca link.
So, like, you mean Star Wars 4?
Of course.
Or are you talking about the remake with Zac Efron?
No, I'm specifically...
that came out in 2023.
I'm specifically talking about the 2023 edition, where they go into a lot of detail about the alphabet of the Wookiee, and you know kind of how they ruined the first 3 books because they went into not books, movies, because they went into, like...
They're all the same now. Books are interactive.
You know how, like, all that shit about the mitochondrion kind of, like, spoiled any of the interesting stuff about the first three? Well, I was just thinking that the 2023 book did the same thing about the alphabet, and it ruined everything, and the fact that they put Zac Efron in the movies, I don't understand, and now I feel like I'm gonna die and I'm never gonna understand what George Lucas's plan for the universe.
Snap out of it, man. Snap out of it. Alright, I really shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I really apologize.
Okay, sir.
I learned how to control people from the way that characters in film noir
the fact that
treat women.
I mean, since you have telekinesis, I'm not very surprised.
Here, have a tissue.
Thank you. Oh, aloe. It's so soft.
Here, let me throw that away for you.
Thank you. Got your throat. Oh, thank you, Astromech. Alright, I just have to say that if this is going to be our final mission, I want you to promise me that even though I'm pregnant, if I die, you'll take the baby and raise it as your own.
I promise.
Okay. Thanks.
So... Can you watch the guns while I go pee? Like, I really, like, I just had,
okay.
I really had to.
I'll watch the railgun.
Yeah, like, I've just been holding it in for a long time. And
it's okay.
I know I'm telekinetic, so I have really good holding it in abilities, but it's getting to that breaking point.
It's okay. I'll watch the guns. I'll watch the railgun.
Alright.
And the turret. Oh shit! There's a bomb in the urinal! Oh shit. I guess I have to take care of this baby on my own. Thanks, Chewbacca, for saying you'll raise him. Thanks, Primate. I forgot. You're not Chewbacca. You're the Primate. What? The end. You've been listening to Improv Town. If you enjoyed this episode, rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're in the Rhode Island area, don't forget to check out all the great local improv. PIG, the Providence Improv Guild, has shows every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8. The Contemporary Theater down in Wakefield is currently doing Maestro Improv at 9:30 on Fridays, and the Bit Players do Short Form down in Newport every Friday and Saturday night at the Firehouse Theater, and that's BYOB, so that's always fun. You can also check out Improv Jones, Rhode Island's longest-running improv show, on the first Saturday of every month. That's down at the AS220 Black Box in Providence. Last but not least, there's a new improv theater in town, Wage House, which has shows every Friday night at 8 in Pawtucket. And many of these theaters also offer great improv classes, so don't forget to check those out as well. I'm sure Google can help you find everything you need. See you next time. Have you tried Hell or High Watermelon from 21st Amendment Brewery? It's a wheat beer, brewed with watermelon. It's a seasonal release, brewed and canned by 21st Amendment Brewery in San Leonardo, California.